Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Joe 2 in Love. Here with your AEW Dynamite review, Fallout from Full Gear. Full Gear, a fantastic pay per view on Saturday night, in which many things happened. Great matches, MJF, Darby Allin. But the biggest moment, obviously, Hangman Page, Page, winning the AEW World Championship from Kenny Omega. Classic in the main event. And they were here in Virginia, Hangman's home state. How would he respond? And how would he... Also, could we see either MJF or Bryan Danielson? Well, we got some of each, but in an interesting fashion. But nonetheless, thank you for joining me today. If you're new to the podcast, or if you want to see more videos on the channel, the subscribe is right there for all my pro wrestling reviews. Both Dynamite, Rampage. Also, I've sprinkled in some Impact reviews there as well. So you find those all on the channel there. But thank you. Let's get into the show, shall we? So, the Fallout show, start out with a highlight package of Full Gear, a bit from Saturday night. And then they cut to the ring. Dark Order was out there. The Dark Order, everybody was out there. So, John Silver's, there was SARS, cowboy hats, balloons set up all to the ring. John Silver's introduced the new AEW World Champion, Hangman Page. He came out to glorious reception. And just that image of that AEW World Championship around his waist, I'm sure not just him, but it did kind of feel like, damn, relief. Just long-term booking, payoff of over a year, and now is here, Hangman, the world champion. So he came out to the ring. Chance of you deserve it. Percolated all throughout the arena. And Hangman said, "Whoa, I gotta stop you there, if you don't mind. But I didn't deserve it. I earned it." And then so obviously that prompted some "you earned it" chants all throughout the arena. And then he obviously embraced the Dark Order members. He said with this title comes a great deal of responsibility and a big weight comes with it. And he mentioned Bryan Danielson as his soon-to-be challenger, and just like that, his music plays the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. Now, it was obviously announced that it's going to be Bryan Danielson versus Evil Uno the other day. So he came out ready to wrestle in his gear, but So at first, he was cheered. And then when he got in the ring, he said, "Congratulations, Hangman." He shook his hand. He said, though, he was disappointed that it's Hangman, not Kenny Omega, standing across from him. And that Hangman fired back with saying, "Well, yeah, I beat Kenny Omega on Saturday night." And then Bryan said that, you know, you're not going to be fighting a guy that dresses like a Ghostbuster for Halloween. So, riled up Hangman, and then also Hangman suggested, "Well, I don't see why we can't wrestle for the title tonight." And then Bryan said, "Well, you have come up with many excuses for your failures here in AEW. And yes, Bryan's ready to wrestle, but Heyman could visibly tell, you could visibly tell was not ready." And so Bryan said he doesn't want Heyman to have the excuse for why he's not ready, or excuse for why he loses. So again, fired up Hangman, he got in Bryan's face, and they were separated by the Dark Order members. And Bryan was like, "Yeah, have them separate us. You don't want to face me here tonight." So then all of a sudden, I mean, Bryan is a babyface. However, tonight, and it seems, because when you have a babyface versus babyface dynamic, either the reception is going to cancel out, or one guy is going to be heel for the feud. And Bryan, he was working this whole show like he was a heel. And you can tell Bryan, one of the best to ever do it. And he egged it on so much. So good to see. So then after a break, we had Bryan Danielson for Evil Uno. Rest of the members of the Dark Order, Anna Jay and Hangman, they fled. Saw a match between the two. Danielson, though, was working the match with a different mindset, with a different, um, almost body language, pretty much, when he's operating now as a heel, because in Virginia they're booing him. So, different style he was working for this match, but still a good match. Uno, he had neck trigger for a near fall. He went for a senton atomico, but missed. Bryan hit the running knee. He did his usual stomps to the face, stick. Then he locked on a triangle choke. Uno passed out, but Bryan did not release the hold right away. He latched on for a few extra seconds, and egging this on for the heel style for Bryan. So, funny stuff. Afterwards, he announced, well, he took the microphone from Tony Schiavone and he announced that he'll kick all the heads in of the Dark Order until he gets to Hangman. And he announced that next week in Chicago, the Thanksgiving edition of AEW Dynamite, it'll be him versus Chicago native of the Dark Order, Colt Cabana. So, will be an interesting match. Looking forward to. Most I've been looking forward to a Colt Cabana match in a while. Um, he obviously hasn't wrestled as much uh, these days, but obviously Cabana and Ryan have history, so should be a fun match. So then we had MJF. Words from MJF post his match with Darby Allin on Saturday night at Full Gear. He talked about how everyone's hating him, how people are saying he can't go in the ring, how all he does is talk on the stick. But MJF has proven people wrong. And, again, there's people out there that are going to say that MJF, can't go in the ring. How he's a great promo, but nothing else. Against Darby Allin, probably match of the year for AEW. I mean, that and the steel cage match versus Young Bucks and Lucha Brothers at All Out. I have to say, those two are my favorites so far. Now we still got a month left in the year, so we'll see, but very interesting to see. So next we were backstage and 2.0 Daniel Garcia. Guys, we have not seen in a while on Dynamite or Rampage. Here we got Eddie Kingston backstage confronting 2.0 and Daniel Garcia, basically challenging Daniel Garcia and be an interesting dynamic to both parties. And, Daniel Garcia, he's young. Eddie Kingston, we know he can go with anyone. So I'm sure it'd be because I don't think the CM Punk Eddie Kingston thing is over. But this would be a nice little feud between Eddie Kingston and 2.0. Then we got the Butcher and the Blade of the Hardy Family Office. I mean, Hardy Family Office got a nice reception in Virginia, but I think it was less about the Hardy Family Office. Well, Butcher and Blade are great, and we all love Matt Hardy, but I think it was kind of their anticipation for what was next. Butcher and Blade versus Orange Cassidy, and then representing Chaos and New Japan Pro Wrestling, the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii, is making his AEW Dynamite debut was interesting, and now it felt a little bizarre, you know, hearing him come out and Rocky Romero to Orange Cassidy's theme music. However, I don't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling a lot, but and so nonetheless, hearing Tomohiro Ishii come out to Orange Cassidy's theme music was very odd, I would say. But still a good match, fun match escalate between these four. So of course Cassidy was being beat down by Butcher and Blade. Um, Ishii had some back and forths with both, um, obviously him and the Butcher. That was a great sight. Big fight field, two big guys. But Cassidy was getting beat down. They got a hot tag in the Ishii. Ishii landed some offense on the Blade. Hit a Saito for a near fall. And then finally, Ishii and the Butcher, because they were teasing it a little glimpses, start the match. But eventually, Butcher got the tag and just back and forth, forearm strikes. Ishii was backed up in the corner and he took some strikes from the Butcher, and he just had this like stone. I can see why they call him the Stone Pitbull, because he just had this stone cold look on his face and not selling the strikes by the Butcher backing him up in the opposite corner and raining down strikes on the Butcher, getting these advantages. He actually hit a superplex on the Butcher out of the corner. Tony Schiavone described it best. He said it would be a collision for the superplex to happen, and that was indeed that. Superplex by Ishii for near fall. Back in the ring was Cassidy. 2-on-1 versus the Butcher and the Blade. He hit the stunner on the Blade. Hit a tilt-a-whirl DT then for near fall. Eventually, Butcher and the Blade got the advantage again. The powerbomb neckbreaker combination for, I think Ishii was a hair late. If I had to say, he seemed to be a hair late. But he broke up the pin nonetheless for near fall. Finally, after a big crossbody on the outside, taking out the Butcher and Matt Hardy by Orange Cassidy, Ishii hit a big lariat on Blade, knocking him inside out, and then hitting a brainbuster on for the win. Tomohiro Ishii gets his win in his debut match on AEW. Good for what it was. Of course, once again, excuse me, they mentioned Okada. And, they've been mentioning Okada a bunch lately. And Okada, he was part of that New Japan show in California on Saturday. So he's in the States and they've been mentioning him. And you just feel he's gonna make his way to AEW soon. Of course, we also want to see Ibushi, um, Ospreay, Tanahashi, just many names still to come for New Japan, but fun match between the four. Good debut for AEW for Ishii, the Stone Pitbull. So then we got a quarterfinal match in the TBS title women's title tournament between Hikaru Shida and Nyla Rose. I was curious with how the match ended on Saturday on the buy-in, and with them playing up the feud with Serena Deeb and Hikaru Shida, how is this gonna fare out? So it was an okay match nonetheless. Shida went for her spot where she propels off a chair on the outside and splashes into her opponent. Instead, Shida was set up on the chair on the outside, and I mean, Nyla went for a splash on the outside, but she missed Shida and landed back first on the chair. And then back in the ring, they're exchanging. Shida locked on a triangle choke, but Nyla muscled her way out, landing a powerbomb to break it up. And then, courtesy of distraction from Vicky Guerrero and Serena Deeb, Rose locked on a stretch muffler on Shida's injured knee, and Shida had no choice but to tap out, and Nyla Rose advances in the semifinals. I mean, quite clear now because I don't see Chris Statlander winning against Ruby Soho. So it looks like we may get Ruby Soho versus Nyla Rose next round. And then this was my favorite segment of the night, I'm sure to many. Although it wasn't much. It was chapter 1 and a feud going forward. So MJF, he was not done on the show. He came out with Shawn Spears and Wardlow. Spears tried his best to quiet the crowd for MJF, but they weren't having any of it. So MJF thanked Spears. That's why you're a good friend. So MJF said that he's the most complete wrestler in AEW. Says they'll spawn a biddings war for him when his contract expires currently in 2024, and that there's no one in the back that is on his level. So then all of a sudden, Cult of Personality hits. CM Punk. He comes out after his fight with Eddie Kingston on Saturday. He came out with his. He was just fuming. He had his arms crossed. He was walking slowly, just like taking in, viewing. He got into the ring, crossed his arms, and he didn't say anything, which is less is more. Beautiful part. So, got holy shit chants, they were chanting at MJF, shut the F up. So, I'm sure MJF, he was probably giddy a bit inside of him because if you remember in the feud between MJF and Sammy Guevara, there was a pic of a young MJF taking a picture with Mr. CM Punk back when CM Punk was more in his prime in WWE. So MJF then tried to introduce himself. He said, Maxwell. He put his hand out, offered a handshake to CM Punk. CM Punk just laughed in his face, left the ring, up the stage. His music played. Nothing was said for CM Punk. Just a little more so. He left him hanging. And little spot and went. Because, this was going to be a great feud. A great feud. One that we're all looking forward to. Because we know the mic work of both guys. But this was just a little more so to this feud. I can't wait. What I love about AEW is they leave you with wanting more. And this segment personified it. And all of a sudden we want more to happen of MJF and CM Punk. We got the first glimpse, and soon we're gonna get more. Don't worry, people. Don't worry. We're gonna get it. So then we got Leo Rush and Dante Martin first the Acclaimed. So, first of all, good that Leo Rush is back, after tending to his family for the loss of his grandmother. So, again, thoughts out to him. But here he teamed with Dante versus the Acclaim. Max Caster talked about, Leo Rush is better as a manager. Always a decent rap is Max Caster. So, but this was a high octane match for what it was. Bowens has been getting more action the last few weeks. Um, he landed a super kick which dropped, I believe, Rush. Then was caught with a springboard drop kick by Dante. Then the Acclaimed went for their finisher with a T-bone suplex followed the mic drop elbow by Caster for a near fall. But the finish came when Dante, his finisher, springboard moonsault. Sorry, another pop-up on the computer, but whatever, it went away. Springboard moonsault by Dante. Then a big frog splash by Leo Rush for the win. And another win for Leo Rush and Dante Martin. And, you know, they discussed that the Acclaim were the number 2 tag team in the rankings. And bizarre because we still have a few months, maybe, for Darius to come back, and it's a weird pickle, I would say, for the tag team division. So, before the main event, they announced for Rampage. Oh, yeah, they also mentioned first to begin the show. So, the Elite were backstage, and so Kenny Omega talked about Full Gear. He talked about, well, the Elite all lost at the pay per view. And he gave props to Hangman, Kenny Omega did. And he said that he needs to get better. He needs to improve. And he said that he can't do it here. So he said that he hopes they can hold down the fort while he's away. Again, hinting at Omega taking time off. And then so Cole said, "Oh, you have my word. You don't have to worry about it." So then Omega said, "Well, I was talking about the Bucks." So then there's a little dissension between Kenny Omega and Adam Cole. Again, hinting perhaps at Adam Cole kicking out Kenny Omega of the Elite. And so they announced for Rampage Jurassic Express versus Adam Cole and Bobby Fish. So, again, former Undisputed Era members to face Adam Cole and Bobby Fish, or teaming up for Rampage. Also, a little touch. Bobby Fish, it sounded like he was going to say, "That is blank," hint Undisputed. And then Matt said, "Haha, well, you can't say that here." So is that Jade Cargill versus Red Velvet, another quarterfinal match in the TBS Women's Title Tournament. Darby Allin to face Billy Gunn. So and so. Just get Darby Allin perhaps on the show. Also for next week on Dynamite. So we got Bryan Danielson versus Colt Cabana. Jamie Hayter for Thunder Rosa. And a big 8-man tag. We got Dead Triangle, Pac and the Lucha Brothers, hint, and Cody Rhodes versus FTR, Malachi Black, and Andrade El Idolo. So that's lined up for Dynamite next week. So good stuff there. Now the main event. Sammy Guevara versus Jay Lethal, making his AEW Dynamite debut. Open challenge for the TNT Championship. Very good match. Jay Lethal, he's 20-year veteran. This is his biggest platform he has been on. He was a shining star in TNA/Impact, and then he got cut, went to Ring of Honor, was there for many years, had great success in Ring of Honor, but of course, TNA Impact, a little under the radar, whereas this platform, AEW, great platform to showcase Jay Lethal. Here again, Sammy Guevara, like Tomohiro Ishii, he delivered in his Dynamite debut. So, Lethal, it's weird. I have not reviewed a Jay Lethal match in a long time. But, so, he hit the Lethal Consequences, his backbreaker flatliner combination, knocked Sammy to the outside, but Sammy got the advantage. His torpedo splash to the outside on Lethal. They were exchanging in the metal ring. Sammy hit a Spanish fly to separate them both. Lethal went for a suicida on the outside, but countered to a brainbuster by Sammy. Finally, later in the match, Big Knee caught Jay Lethal and knocked him on the timekeeper table. Sammy, he was on the top rope, went for a senton atomico, but crashed and burned. No, Jay Lethal. On the timekeeper's table. Then back in the ring, Lethal tried to follow up, but he had a reverse suplex press for a near fall. Then he went for a figure four, but Sammy got to the ropes. Finally, after he was struggling because his injured ribs, Sammy hit two big knees to the face of Lethal, and then finally hit the go to hell, the GTH. For the win, Sammy Guevara retains, still your TNT champion. Stellar debut for Jay Lethal, and can't complain. Hard worker, know what he brings. Just the first step for him in AEW, and he's gonna have just the first part. He's gonna have a bunch more good matches with the great talent here in AEW, so it's gonna be fun to watch him flourish in AEW. But there was that, and that how the show went off the air. The Inner Circle came to congratulate Sammy. Lethal and Sammy shook hands, and yeah, and the show. Good Dynamite tonight. The Fallout show from a very good Full Gear pay-per-view did not disappoint. And yeah, got the Rampage for set Friday, and then Thanksgiving edition of Dynamite next week. But there's that. Anyway, that's the episode for you guys. Hope you guys enjoy it. Be back Saturday for Rampage, and then next week for Dynamite. But again, thank you. Of course, if you didn't check out my Full Gear review, I post that on Sunday night. So you can also look at that on the channel. They are 45 minutes. A good 45 minutes of me reviewing Full Gear. But there's that along with all my videos up there. But nonetheless, thank you. Be back next week. Be safe along with Saturday, and peace. Oops.